I miss the sound of the waves. I miss the tangy smell of the dune floral mingled with that of salt air. The sand shifting under the weight of my ample body as I rolled over during sleep, and the reassuring light of ships on the horizon. If I didn't have the health issues I have, and were younger, if people weren't complaining about me to law enforcement, I think I could have hung in there a bit longer. At least long enough to perhaps receive a stimulus check, which would have allowed an opportunity to maybe have my own place instead of renting a room for the same cost. But my body was screaming for a mattress and a place to lay when needed. Those are the words written by Karen Kirkpatrick. For about 9 months during the pandemic, Karen was homeless. Her journey started a few weeks before Pinellas County issued a safer at home order. Toward the end of February, Karen was evicted from the place she called home. At first, she sought refuge at homeless shelters around St. Petersburg. But as infection rates of the coronavirus started to soar and the town started to shut down, shelters were no longer an option.
It must have been difficult, especially these past 11 months, pandemic, and not knowing what's going to happen with COVID and, you keeping safe and sanitized. What was that experience like for you?
Well, actually, the hardest part about it was realizing everyone had kind of forgotten about the homeless, I think. They were so busy focusing on, how are we going to do work? How are we going to do school, the kids and all of that? And I understand that. And what was upsetting to me is many of the shelters did make the decision to close their doors. And I understand the reasons why, but I don't know what they thought we were going to do, because it was during the shutdown and you couldn't even go. There was nowhere to go. You couldn't go to McDonald's, Burger King and get a cup of coffee. How are you going to get breakfast? You couldn't, there was nowhere you to go and sit. It was unbelievable how you don't realize when they shut everything down and you're supposed to be sheltering in place and you don't have a place to shelter in. Where do you think those people are going to go or what they're going to do? And so I wasn't so much concerned about catching COVID because I'm outdoors and I'm breathing fresh air and I'm not around anybody. I'm alone. We're watching these empty streets that are usually full of cars on 49th Street. And it was like a no man's land. It was really eerie. It was very eerie to witness and be part of seeing how shutting down a city works.
So where did you sleep? I know you talked to me a little bit that you slept in different pockets of the city. You don't have to give me exact locations, but where do homeless people sleep?
Where they can't be found. Being a female and being single, I also wanted a place that, even though it was not noticeable to the human eye by passing or walking by, I wanted a place that I could get out of quickly if the wrong person discovered me. So in other words, I was hiding in plain sight.
Every evening, before the sun set, Karen searched for a safe place to lay her head for the night. She slept behind churches, between shrubs at hospitals, but her favorite place to sleep, the beach. At first, she slept where canopies and umbrellas are stored, under the boardwalk. And when she built up enough courage, she slept out in the open, on the sand.
And as you know, I was recently cited with a citation and a fine for sleeping on the beach. And the reason I was sleeping there, the officers, said, there's places you can go, you just don't want to go there. That was not true. I had really tried hard to get myself into shelters and been told no for whatever reason.
To help prevent an outbreak of the coronavirus within the homeless population, the CARES Act included a $4 billion emergency solutions grant. Communities with the greatest need were able to use the grant to help with rapid housing and rental deposit assistance.
Maybe I didn't meet the criteria, or perhaps they were quarantining after staying closed for so many months and only slowly letting people in. But the bottom line is I couldn't get in, and I couldn't sit there and let that eat away at my self-worth. I had to find another way to skin the rabbit. And if it meant to continue to sleep on the beach and network as much as I can, then that's what it meant. But I wasn't going to continue to knock on a door that had been slammed in my face.
So we are here today to celebrate a very special donation, a $5 million grant awarded by the Bezos Family Foundation's Day One Families Fund. That money will go to help 400 families with approximately 1,000 children who face homelessness in Pinellas and Hillsborough counties.
What are your thoughts on when you saw that news? Actually, I called to tell you about it. What were your thoughts when you tuned in on social media to watch it?
I was able to, as soon as I got off the phone with you, automatically go to News Channel 10 and start streaming, because they broadcasted it from City Hall immediately at exactly 11 o'clock. So I saw it live. I was thrilled and proud at that moment, and I'm still thrilled and proud. But my heart did sink a little bit. I'm not going to lie. When I heard children with families, my heart sank, because there are children with families out there that are homeless, and now once the eviction moratorium is no longer enforceable, there will be more.
The nationwide eviction moratorium is set to expire on December 31st, 2020, unless a bipartisan bill that includes a 1-month extension is signed by the president. And even with the extra 4 weeks, an estimated 40 million people in America could face eviction within the next several months. 15% of renters in Florida are at risk of being evicted, and more than 7,000 families with children are homeless in the state.
The thought that we are going to be changing the trajectory for hundreds and hundreds of children in our school system who are struggling in poverty and homelessness is at the heart of what we work for every day in this city. So my thanks, of course, to Jeff Bezos and the Bezos Day One Fund for recognizing the excellence of St. Vincent de Paul and the potential of the Sunshine City.
St. Vincent de Paul has been working here in our city for 59 years, almost 60 years, to help those that have been experiencing poverty. And finally, I'm incredibly grateful to all of our staff. This is a group of men and women who have fought a pandemic, who have fought a system, and who have, since the onset of COVID-19, March 17th, have successfully housed 503 homeless families from the street into housing during a pandemic.
It's not a stand in line kind of thing. It's not first come, first serve. It doesn't work that way with getting aid. It's the most needy first. And I appreciate that. But yeah, my heart hurt a little bit, because I was hopeful that it would be inclusive of other groups.
Karen's not wrong. The homeless individual male and the homeless individual female were the last of the populations for the funding to come down and for the prioritization to happen. So that's the bad news. The good news is it's here. And our organization, for example, in Pinellas and St. Petersburg, was one of 3 organizations that also has funding that's just now coming online. I mean, we're just hiring now to begin to target homeless male and homeless female individuals, that they're not traveling with children. And so they are the last ones to be served. I mean, there's just no denying that. And the sad thing is that the amount of money that is present and among us right now is not enough to scratch the surface. We need more. The only solution is housing. Fast access, support in housing, stabilized housing, and then we begin the work behind them once they're housed to make sure that they never become unhoused. that they stay housed forever. And our organization's running at about 87% success rate with that.
I tell you, there's not anything out there. There really isn't. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. I wouldn't.
Waiting for nonprofits to find her beneath the surface was no longer an option for Karen, so she turned to social media.
At first, I was really hesitant to come out and let people know I was homeless. I just put out my heartfelt feelings about how this looked like it was not going to have an end to it. And, you know, what difference did it make if it did? I mean, I just felt so worthless, unloved, abandoned, invisible, you know, undeserving, the whole kit bag of words that go with losing your self-worth. And someone saw it and reached out to you, and that person also reached out to her other artist friends on my page, and they funded enough money for me, along with what funds I have, to, you know, get a room. And so that's what I have now. I have a room for the first time. I actually have a place to live, you know, and I can cook meals and take showers like most of us do.
We can move it, we can shift it, and we can pretend it doesn't exist, but the only end to homelessness is housing. And we as a community have to let go of our fear of looking poverty in the face. Every time we stop at a stoplight and we break eye contact with the person asking for money, every time a homeless person approaches us and we look the other way, it means that we're afraid to look at them, not that they're afraid to look at us.